Abhimanyu ji, you can say what you want.
It's being recorded.
All right. So we will start the class now. The recording already started. Om. 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 श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् नमः श्री शङ्करानन्द गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलासमहामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे। So in the last class, we have seen about Mananam that we are actually going through. Yeah, right from I think verse 49 till 48, Shravanam we completed, and 49 onwards, Mananam started. Mananam is what? Intellectually, if some have any doubts, after the Shravanam is over, especially with respect to the nature of the Brahman, then one needs to do what we call in our scriptures as anusandhanam analysis, and make sure that there are no further doubts are entertained by the mind, because unless we have crystal clear clarity in terms of the nature of the Brahman, nature of the Jiva, and how they are one and the same, as Sravanam has told us, during Nididhyasanam, there will be problems associated with the conflict that one will go through. And that is the reason Mananam becomes a important step in terms of sadhana. So sadhana has got Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, as we see here. Yeah? So Shravanam was over till 48, and in order to introduce the topic of Mananam, a Purva Pakshi was introduced by Swamiji, who raised a question telling that if the Mahavakya is indicating the Brahman as you say in your definition of Mahavakya Viveka Visleshana, or the analysis that you have done, that Tat is that Brahman who is the Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam means the one and only intelligent and material cause of the entire creation is that Ishvara. If you say such a person is there, such an entity is there, and that entity can be only defined as one Advaita, how come a Vakya, a sentence, is indicating this? Obviously, we are told that this doubt can come only from the Nyaya philosopher, for whom actually the entire world is made up of only dravya, substance. Yeah? And that dravya, when mixed with Nyaya, when you mix Nyaya along with Vaiseshika philosophy as well, they are very close. And the whole world is, as per them, made up of seven padarthas or principles, we can say. Yeah. So these are dravya, material, guna, kriya. Guna means property. Kriya is the action. Samanya is a generic property like jati, species, etc. And Visesha, unique property that is there. And Samavaya or Sambandha, type of relationship, various types of relationships. And Abhava, the absence also was brought in by Vaiseshika philosophy, absent in Nyaya. Nyaya was more in terms of if I cannot see, it is not there. That type of philosophy was Nyaya, but Vaiseshika accepted even if you cannot see, you can still have words describing that. Yeah, that is how they came out with. But as a combined philosophy of these two, the entire world is made up of these seven principles. And if you have any word or a sentence that is made up of different words put together, can indicate only seven of these. So when you describe a Brahman as Neti Neti, not there, that Brahman cannot be indicated by Mahavakya. And hence, if it is indicated by Mahavakya, it should be part of the creation. The idea is that all the words that are there, which we use, can describe only our experiences within the universe that we are experiencing. If I don't experience something, I cannot possibly have a word for that. That is how I means it's not one person that we are looking at as a humanity, let us say. So as a humanity, only those where the experience is there, there can be a word. For example, when computer was not there, created 50 years back, maybe 80 years back, I'm not sure. At that time, there was no word for computer. So there is no need for a word for a computer, because the object of computer, what we call as computer, was not experienced by anybody in the whole of the world in terms of this. So there was no need, and there was never a word for that particular object. If I take Brahman as that, then that Brahman should not have a word describing, because you say that you cannot experience Brahman. That is the doubt that came from Nyaya Vaiseshika philosophy. But the way they have put across that particular doubt was, if a word is given in Mahavakya, it cannot indicate Brahman or Nirvikalpa Brahman. Since this one has come, which is called as Vitandavada. As I mentioned, Vitandavada is something where a person is trying only to put the Vedantin down by telling he is wrong. The Vitandavadin will not have his own or her own conclusion to say that this particular thing indicates something else. So he is not telling that Mahavakya indicates this. He is only telling that you are wrong. So in order to put down that Vitandavada, initially Vedantin comes out with a logic similar to the question itself. So he says, if you say Nirvikalpa or Savikalpa, the word that you are using, the term Vikalpa has got a meaning of the doubt. And since you are telling that Nirvikalpa cannot be indicated by the word, so to say, but you yourself are using that particular term in terms of telling that that is not there. So in your mind, how are you able to entertain a doubt that Mahavakya cannot indicate a Nirvikalpa, because as per you, Nirvikalpa cannot be a thought also. Because if word is there, word is indicating a thought. Without a thought, there is no word associated. Only when I experience something, that experience goes into my mind as a thought, and that thought I will try and give a word to explain, which will be common between a group of people, so that whenever within this group of people use that particular word, everybody makes sense in terms of what that word indicates. Thought is a prerequisite for the word. So since you are entertaining that word, that thought of nirvikalpa, and you say it cannot be nirvikalpa, how come you are entertaining that doubt itself? So he is questioning that the very basis for that question which has come from Nyaya philosophy. Yeah. Anyway, so but the main idea is in verse 52, we will see not only Swamiji has put back the question into the doubters field, but he gives the actual reason as to why that particular thing indicates, Mahavakya indicates that Nirvikalpa Brahman. So that is for our sake, yeah, in terms of, because this doubt may remain in our head as well, in terms of how come this is indicating that Brahman, a word cannot. So in order to understand the very term of Brahman and the relative nature of the Brahman vis-a-vis the Jiva, 52 verse actually kind of gives the subsequent correct answer to that doubt. Yeah. So we will read 52 and go into the Mananam, continue with the Mananam, so to say. Yeah. Mainly we have seen that one need to conclude that Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. And I have given that example also in the last class about the color of the object. When you talk about the world or the creation, and you try to indicate that that particular Brahman cannot be this particular Jiva, we need to first understand the nature of these two in terms of this. And the only way that particular Brahman can be equated to this particular Jiva is by defining these two. And in order to understand the nature of the Jivatvam, nature of the creation, of which Jiva is part of it, yeah, itself is Mithya. How do we arrive? So whenever you go into a little bit analysis, we say that the color of the objects is, if we take for example, which we consider to be very basic reality with the world that we come across. Means what? If trees are there, we say the leaves are green. Although there are some exceptions, more or less 90% of or 95% of the trees will have the green leaves, for example. Yeah. So the greenery of the leaves per se, we have established is only mithya. How? Because really the object, what we call as leaf, does not have a color by its own. Only when the light falls on that particular leaf, like any other object, has got a property of retaining one of the 7 constituent colors of that white light. And balance all colors, they scatter away from the object. And because it is absorbing one particular color, it appears to green to the human eye. May not necessarily be with all the other animals. For example, some of them have got only black and white vision. And even within human beings, there are some who are colorblind. For them, green appears, I don't know what. So really speaking, the object per se does not even have a color, which we take as the reality. We have no doubt about that in our experience when we are experiencing this particular world, so to say. Yeah. So once you go into any such analyzing any such object of the universe, we come to the conclusion that there is nothing which we take it for granted as reality is the real reality behind. There appears to be a substratum, and quantum physics, etc., which science has gone into with all the instruments that they have, very, very clear that although it appears to be a solid world, it is actually made up of only the energy. E is equal to mc square, more or less proved what Vedanta was always insisting or telling. Yeah, but they are not really one and the same. So don't start any argument with any scientist to say that we knew about E is equal to mc square. No, not like that, because our concept is slightly different in terms of this. Yeah, Mithyatvam has got, we are not telling that there is no reality associated with this world. It is experienced. However, the reality is not there as what we understand as solid. There is always a substratum, and this is a world of appearances, yeah, for a particular period of time. Okay. So this Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya is a very, very important conclusion one requires to make in terms of Mananam. Unless we arrive at that conclusion with zero doubts, you will have problems when we do Nididhyasanam, is how the Swamiji is going to come out. So 52 verse we will read now. Yeah? Vikalpa tad, okay. Vikalpa tadabhavabhyam samsprushtatma vastuni vikalpata lakshyatva sambandhadhyastu kalpitaha vikalpatada bhavabhyam asamsprushtatma vastuni vikalpitatva lakshyatva sambandhadhyastu kalpitaha. So here the real answer to that question is being brought about in terms of Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Yeah? So the terms that are used is Vikalpatat Abhavabhyam. Abhava means absence. So the presence or absence of the doubts. Vikalpa Abhavabhyam means the presence and absence of the doubts. Asamsprushtaha. Asamsprushtaha is untouched. What is untouched with this? Atma Vastuni, in the self. So now, why this aspect is being brought about is that the question which the Nyaya philosopher has raised, although he has not used these terms because he is not a Vedantin, yeah, the same question is being rephrased here by Swamiji for our correct understanding in terms of what our answer should be to ourselves in as part of Mananam. Yeah? So here what is being told is the doubt actually the Nyaya philosopher had was that when you say that consciousness is something which is asamsprishta, is untouched by the creation, and my mind is part of this creation. My thoughts are part of this creation and they appear conscious. Every thought of ours, every mind of ours appear conscious, no doubt about that. It is like on a full moon night, when we go out and look at the moon, the light appears one with the moon. As such, experientially, even though we can learn from the science that moon doesn't have a light of its own. It is nothing but a reflection of the sunlight, which appears to be a moonlight. Why we experience this differently? Because the nature of that light appears to be different. Sunlight is very hot, whereas moonlight is very, very pleasant. We can happily look at the moon and enjoy the beauty of it. You can never look at the sun and enjoy the beauty of the sun with naked eye. Yeah. So in that particular sense, if you see, the light appears to be different. The moon appears to be having a light of its own. And we call it also moonlight, and we enjoy that moonlight as well, so to say. Yeah. So when such a this one is there, even the thoughts appear to be conscious. However, here the question that should have been raised by Nyaya philosopher, or if he was a Vedantin, what the question should have been is, when my thought, which is consciousness that you are telling, the awareness that you are telling, appears to be conscious, how come that particular consciousness which you say is Brahman, and it appears to be same nature by Tattvamasi that you have elaborately analyzed and said that Tat is this, Tvam is this, etc., etc. how they are one and the same. Because that particular tat is supposed to be completely asangaha from your mind, is completely different from your mind. And it's only a reflection of that is making the mind appear sentient is the meaning of this. Explain to me how these two are possible. When the same consciousness is there, enlivening your mind, same consciousness is supposed to be asangaha, but here they are sangaha. The same consciousness is completely mixed up with your mind, creating the thoughts, creating a feeling of sentiency, how they are one and the same. That is the basic question should have been from the Vedanta perspective, the same question. Because of a different philosophy, Nyaya philosopher has put that same question in different wordings. Yeah. So here what we are talking about is Vikalpitatva, presence of the attributes that are there, and Lakshyatva, that suggestiveness of Sambandhyadi, means relationship, attributes, whatever that seven aspects or principles which make up this entire world, so to say, is telling the word used is very, very important. It says tu kalpitaha, means they are only fictional or superimposed. Very, very important concept of Vedanta in terms of understanding Jivatma and Paramatma. These two is used by the Swamiji here in terms of telling that it is only kalpita. The entire world of Jivatma, including your thoughts, and they appear very sentient, they are nothing but kalpitam. Kalpitam means either you can take fictional or they are superimposed. Normally we talk it as superimposition is the term that we normally use. So what exactly this mithyatvam that we are talking about? So the reality that is there, or the truth which is behind the mind and intellect that we talk about, that particular, and this mind includes all the doubts, beliefs, decisive nature, which we call as intellect, or the indecisive nature is the mind. We have lots of definitions for all these aspects of our existence, so to say. It is only possible to be connected with the Brahman or the Ishvara, any one of them we can use as such, only when these two are of different orders of reality. Means what? If suppose there is you are in Calgary, for example, and it is snowing outside, and it is minus 40 degrees centigrade, and you went, you slept off, for example. Yeah? And in the dream that you are getting in Calgary, you physically you are still in Calgary, minus 40 degrees, snow is there, still absolutely no variation with that. But suppose in the dream state, you believe that you are in the Sahara Desert in the Africa, for example. So at the same time, there is a desert, there is a heat wave, you are struggling for the water, you are very, very thirsty because you are run out of water, and you are walking about in the desert, and each one of that experience is very, very real to you as long as the dream is going on. But physically, you are in Calgary, it is snowing outside with minus 40 degrees centigrade. These two can coexist at the same time only when these two belong to orders of reality. Dream becomes a different order of reality, and the physical presence of in Calgary is a different order of reality. Seemingly contradictory things can coexist only when they are belonging to two different orders of reality. So here we are talking about a Brahman, and that Brahman can be defined in Shastras or your own this one as Tat, who is completely Asangaha and is Akhandaha and Satchidanandaha. All those definitions which are there associated with that, and the same Brahman somehow dilutes and appears as the Jiva and as your mind, as your thoughts, and these two belong to two different orders of reality. Once we understand this particular order of reality aspect, the experiences of the world can be negated as such, and your own reality that is associated with these two orders of reality can then be combined and said that these two are Tat and Tvam, they are one and the same, Tattvamasi. So the nature of the Jiva per se, Shankaracharya defines that as Paramarthika Satta is nature of the Ishvara or nature of the Brahman, and Vyavaharika Satta, experientially, it is the Jivatvam which is there, and this particular experiential reality and that Paramarthika reality, they can be one and the same only when since they too belong to two different orders of reality. So this is the answer that is there in trying to understand the nature of the Brahman. So Mananam, always remember, as I mentioned, you should understand the nature of the Brahman so that there are no doubts are entertained as to what Shravanam has told you. Shravanam has told that Paramarthika and Paramarthika Satta and Vyavaharika Satta, they are one and the same. Yeah, Tat Tvam Asi. So unless we understand these two belong to two different orders of reality, where the sense of self continue to exist, like in your waking state and in your dream state, the sense of self continue to exist. However, experientially, they belong to two different orders of reality. Yeah. So this mithyatvam of prapancha is very, very important for us to understand this particular concept of how my thoughts are khanda, they are divisive by nature, whereas the consciousness is akhanda and sachidan. So, so to say, the truth or the self really at a paramarthika level can never be touched by this vyavaharika prapancha, which appear to be sustained by the same truth. However, they too belong to two different orders of reality. Only for a temporary period. For example, a relative status is given to Brahman, and we call that Brahman as the Ishvara. Really speaking, Ishvara, we say, is made up of Sattva Guna, and Ishvara doesn't have any delusion as to the true nature. And that's what makes Ishvara Ishvara. But we do give a temporary status to that Brahman as Ishvara and say that Ishvara is the one who is created this particular prapancha. The entire universe got created by Ishvara, so to say. Like yourself created the entire world of dream what you are experiencing. Each and every tree, each and every object, each and every mountain, each and every river, each and every animal, each and every person, and all your relationship with all this particular prapancha and your dream world created by your own self, so to say, with the prism of vasanas, prism of the mind. The entire world of dreams got created and projected up. Similarly, what we are telling is that Ishvara with Maya as the Upadhi, just like Vasanas and mind as Upadhi, you are able to create the dream world. This entire world gets projected with Maya as the Upadhi, and Ishvaratvam is a temporary status that is given to Brahman as the creator of this universe. Requires a lot of contemplation on this particular statements that I am making as well. But I think this makes it easy with a bit of examples that we have seen. Okay. So the Brahman is always Nirguna. Brahman is always Nirvikalpa. There is no, and the term that is used in this text is Akhanda. Akhanda, Nirvikalpa, they're all more or less synonyms that we can talk about. And Nirguna, no characters that can be attributed to that particular Brahman. And this entire universe is gunas and vikalpas. There is nothing but vikalpa and guna in this entire world, and there is khanda. Khanda is division. So Brahman can be called nirguna, and once gunas and vikalpas are negated, one thing very, very important that we need to understand is why I mentioned that Ishvara or Ishwaratvam is a temporary status given to Brahman is, this is similar to you are standing in front of a mirror. When you stand in front of the mirror and there is a reflection of yourself in the mirror, if you are standing 4 feet away from the mirror, the image also stands 4 feet away inside the mirror. Okay. And we say that I am the object, mirror is the surface, and the 4 feet away, what I am seeing myself is only a reflection. Yeah. So I am given a temporary status of being an object in front of the mirror for the reflection to get created inside the mirror. If I move away from the mirror, I will not be considered as an object anymore. So, in order for the reflection to exist inside the mirror, I am being given a temporary status of being an object. Really speaking, I don't become an object. I am very, very free to move around. Away from the mirror or in front of the mirror, I can enjoy that particular reflection. I need not enjoy the reflection, but I am being given a temporary status of being an object vis-a-vis the reflection that we see inside the mirror. But really speaking, I don't become an object, and neither I can be objectified in that way. Similarly here, when we call as nirguna, Brahman is nirguna, Brahman is nirvikalpa, etc., only because we are experiencing them in the world as with gunas and vikalpas, with characteristics and the differences that we see in this world. I temporarily give that particular status of to the Brahman as nirvikalpa or nirguna, etc. Really speaking, there is no such thing required at all to define Brahman, because there is nothing other than Brahman. In Advaita philosophy, only Brahman is there. We cannot say one Brahman is there. When we are telling one Brahman is there in front of the mirror, for example, I am the Brahman and I am looking into the Brahman, there is a reflection of the Brahman, then there is only one Brahman on the other side. We can say, and if this Brahman is getting reflected in 1,000 mirrors in a mirror room, for example, in Bruce Lee movie, the villain and Bruce Lee enter into the mirror room, and there are 1,000 Bruce Lees everywhere, and 1,000 villains are also there. He doesn't know whom to hit because everybody looks the same. So he starts hitting all the mirrors. Yeah. So one object, multiple reflections can be there, like in our case. But really speaking, that particular object is getting objectified because there are multiple reflections in that particular this one. No change as far as Bruce Lee outside that room with Bruce Lee inside the room. There is only one. But we objectify that particular Bruce Lee in the mirror room and give a temporary status of being an object, which gets reflected in multiple mirrors, so to say. Similarly here, the nirguna or nirvikalpa of the Brahman is only required when you give reality to vikalpa and guna that we are experiencing in this world. If we are negating that gunas and vikalpas in the world, divisions and the characteristics that we see in the world, which appears to make this particular prapancha, the samsara, the universe, into a multiple objects that we are experiencing, if I can negate them all as mithya, mithyatvam, automatically even the nirgunatvam, nirvikalpatvam of Ishvara get dropped. No longer you require to say that he is nirvikalpa. Similarly, when we say it is Advaita, the term Advaita is used, only because we are experiencing Dvaita in this world, we use the term Advaita. There is no second. Yeah. So the reality it doesn't require any objects at all, like supreme reality, supreme Brahma, Parabrahman. All these adjectives that we use are required only because we are experiencing something different in this world, and I want to differentiate and say that he is supreme Brahman. Really, there is nothing like supreme Brahman. Only Brahman is the term that Advaita asks you to recognize and realize. And how it is done? Normally, it is done by Upanishads using the word Neti Neti. Not this, not this. That's why Upanishads don't try to define Brahman in many ways. Always it says, this is not this, this is not this. Because I am thinking this is reality. We are only saying that this is not reality, this is not reality. And once the truth is something which can no longer be negated by your yukti or shruti or anubhuti. That is how one must understand. Okay. Any questions on that before we move to 53?
It's difficult to understand, as usual for me, anyways. But is there any connection between, excuse me, this Ishvara and what they say in Gita in the last couple of shlokas, that when they say that there are two, like Jiva and the Parmeshwara, and then that Parmeshwara is Ishvara who's busy with doing good to the world. So this
Similar.
Ishvara comes in between
Correct.
Jiva and in between Brahma.
Correct. Yeah. So between Brahman is the only reality that exists. Whereas the world or universe, they say, is made up of three entities. First entity is called Ishvara. We have seen that. And that Ishvara is made up of Sattva Guna Pradhana and Maya as the Upadhi. That is how the Ishvara is defined. So since Sattva Guna is the basis for his existence, so to say, you will have 100% knowledge associated with that particular entity. And Ishvara by himself does not have any delusions as to the true nature of the Brahman, although he is appearing. This is similar to a sun reflecting in a very clear either mirror, you can say, or pond, for example, very, very clear water. So there is no difference between the sun and the reflected sun, equally bright, equally hot, for example. Whereas if the water or the mirror, example, is completely opaque with dirt that is there, the sun appears very dull. Although it is direct reflection, same that is happening in a clear water, there it appears very dull, and you don't find the same features of the sun in the reflection, so to say. And that becomes the Jiva. And Jagat is the third entity that is there, wherein the contamination is to such a level that you hardly experience the sun in that particular reflection. It appears to be completely inert by nature. Although the consciousness is present as per our Shastras, and that is the reason why you will find, as I mentioned before, a mountain, a river, anything you take in our Hinduism or the Sanatana Dharma, there is nothing which is different from the Ishvara. So the Mother Earth, for example, whole of this becomes mother. The river becomes a mother. Mountain becomes a father. So that type of although they appear inert, consciousness becomes part and parcel of that, and we bring in that consciousness in the name of Deva. A Deva is associated with all these inert substances. So mountain has got a Deva, river has got a Devi, earth has got a Devi associated with that. So everything becomes a object of object of worship for Sanatana Dharmis, so to say. Yeah, we don't consider anything other than Brahman. We see Brahman everywhere. But as far as the experience is concerned, they are inert by nature, and I need to understand the mithyatvam of these objects, so to say, elusive nature of these objects, and recognize the consciousness behind, which is the only real existing thing. All others is an illusion. Brahma Satyam Jagan, including Ishvara.
So the consciousness is the thing that created it.
We say actually there is a Sat Chit Anantam. Means Sat and Chit are the very nature of that Brahman. They are not characteristics of the Brahman. Identification of that Brahman, which is divisionless, is recognized from a experiential point of view as Sat, the existence, Chit as the consciousness. So the world is appearing more as Sat, and a Jiva appears more as a consciousness Chit. When you recognize in your meditation that the Chit that I am experiencing in my mind, in my body, in my intellect, in my every level of my existence, as the Chit becomes me, is same as the Sat that is there outside, because existence is there everywhere. I recognize the existence of the mountain. I recognize the existence of the entire world. I recognize the existence of my body as well, which is part of this world. Although to me, my body appears sentient. So I recognize the Chit within my body to recognize. Once in meditation, we recognize the Chit in me is same as Sat everywhere else. That becomes a realization, point of realization. And that Sat and Chit is nothing but that Brahman is the final conclusion one will come to, and this Sat and Chit together is defined as the self.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Again, lot of words that are used require a lot of contemplation in terms of trying to understand, and that is what this text is trying to do. First, it has described how one does Shravanam in terms of Mahavakya Viveka. In terms of Mananam, this doubt has come from Nyaya philosophy. But this doubt, a different doubt or some other doubt, can come to each one of us who is going into this particular text of Shravana Manana Nididhyasanas, and one must make use of Guru, make use of Shastras, make use of one's own experience to overcome these doubts and arrive at a doubtless state on what this Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya is. At our own level, it is very, very important step, which is called as Manana. Okay. We'll go into 53.
Shankarji, before you go into 53, you talked about this lakshyatvam, right?
Lakshyatvam, yeah.
So are those the attributes?
Lakshyatvam is what we mentioned in the previous verses when we talked about a word can have a direct meaning, a word can have a indirect meaning. Like we mentioned that if you call somebody a lion, doesn't mean that person becomes a lion, but the bravery associated with that is being superimposed, and they say that a particular person is a lion. And we understand that very easily. So here when we talk about Tat and Tvam, what we are telling is that we must recognize this Sat and Chit nature of the Brahman that is everywhere. That is why it is also called the infinite by nature. That Brahman is infinite by nature. Whatever is existing either will appear as a Sat or it will appear as a Chit. Means either it will appear as an existing thing or it will appear as a conscious thing. And once we are aware of these two aspects are one and the same, I am telling that is part of the realization that we talk about. So when I see that there is no difference between me and a rock outside, only the nature of that particular object appears to be different because of the very nature of the contaminants in me. So as a human being, I have a mind, and that mind is able to reflect Brahman as Chit aspect. And that particular rock which is there outside, it appears more of a Sat than the Chit. So I call it as the inert. But by nature, that is also Brahman. I am also Brahman. So I have no problem in telling that that rock is Ishvara, and I start praying to the rock at the roadside without any problem. And this is what we actually kind of idol worship we talk about. Really speaking, that is not idol worship. It is the ideal worship, as Gurudev puts it at many places. So it is the ideal behind that rock, which is more important, similar to the ideal behind my consciousness. Both of them are one and the same, is what the Lakshatvam, what we talk about here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Remember this, even when we talk about this pramana, prameya, etc., maybe it is a bit of this one, but even Vedas, even the Guru, we worship them, for example, but Vedas, Guru are also part of this Mithya Prapancha. When we talk about teaching, the teaching itself is part of the Mithya Prapancha. Very, very difficult to accept to all this. Even Shruti has got its own limitation in terms of this, only because that Brahman cannot be described. We make use of whatever is here in terms of this. Very interesting example, actually, Swami Advayananda gave Vinitaji. While teaching this particular concept, he brought about, a window to a building which is there. We call it a window. Really speaking, what is a window if you define? Is it part of the house, or it is part of the space outside? When you start thinking about that a bit more, it is somehow in between space between these two. The window is there, means actually it is just a hole. Hole in that wall gives you access to the space outside, and you can go outside, come inside, jumping through that particular window, so to say. But window per se, it is neither part of the house nor part of the space outside. Similarly, the Shastras are the window that allows you to make note of that infinite truth that is beyond, and understand that and merge with. But really speaking, they are neither part of the house. It is indescribable in a sense, when we start thinking a relative status that we give to that window hole. Similarly, a fence which is constructed around a forest, for example, if that particular fence has got a hole in that, now hole is actually part of the fence only. So it is part of the Mithya Prapancha in that sense. But that hole allows the animal to escape inside and outside from the forest and into forest, so to say. Yeah. This is the example what Advayanandaji gave when he was teaching this particular aspect of verse. Yeah. Okay. Itham vakyai sadarthanu sandhanam shravanam bhavet yuktya sambhavitat tatvanu sandhanam mananantu tat. Itham vakyai sadarthanu sandhanam shravanam bhavet yuktya sambhavitatvanu sandhanam mananantu tat. For the sake of chanting, I have split the word of anusandhanam, yeah, as vakyai stadardhanu sandhanam shravanam bhavet. That's how we chanted, yeah. But anusandhanam is one word. Anusandhanam is analysis that you do is anusandhanam. Okay. but for chanting purpose, we have split that particular word. You can actually add anu to the other word and try to do that chanting as well when you do. Yeah. So itham, in this word, vakyaihi. Vakya is mahavakya. That tattvamasi mahavakya that we have done. Similarly, other mahavakyas you can take. Vakyaihi means by mahavakyas. Tadarthanusandhanam. Tadartha tat ardha anusandhanam means the analysis that you do to understand the meaning of the word. Yeah, tat artha. Artha is meaning. That meaning of that particular word, and you do it through analysis. Anusandhanam, the technique that you use. Shravanam bhave means here Swamiji is giving a very clear definition of the term sadhana in that particular this one of the word. The Shravanam word is being defined by the word here, yeah, by Swamiji here. So already we saw that the sadhana or the practice that is required is split into Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Normally what we do, Shravana word is defined as Pramanagata Sandeha Nivrutti. Means any doubts that you have with respect to Pramana. Pramana is Shastras are the Pramana. You know the for understanding the Brahman, understanding this particular this one, the Shastras or Upanishads become the Pramana. So any doubts with respect to that Pramana, how you get rid of is through the Anusandhanam, the analysis that you do on the words that are used in these Upanishads is called the Shravana. If you go a bit deeper into this particular this one, there are two types of Shravanam that are normally there in Vedanta. This normally don't come across, yeah. So please try to understand. The first Shravanam that we talk about is the Pramanagata Sandeha, means how you understand the Upanishad. Because if you read Gita, as I told, it has got everything. Whether you call it Dvaitam, it call it Advaitam, whether you call it Visishtadvaitam, all of them are part and parcel of that Upanishads that are there in terms of words, word meanings. However, one need to come to a conclusion that whatever is being told is Advaita philosophy only, is the proper way of doing. Shravanam is first way of looking at. Mananam, as I mentioned, is more in terms of Prameyagata Sandeha Nivrutti. Prameya is the God whom, or the Brahman whom we are trying to understand is Prameya. The entity on which you do meditation is Prameya. So any doubt with respect to the Ishvara then becomes the problem in terms of this. And if you remove that, that becomes Mananam. So in the second word here, Yuktya Sambhavitatvat Anusandhan means that very fact that Ishvara can be understood as this, as I mentioned, Chit and Sat in this world, two different things, is itself in terms of understanding the nature of the Brahman and having absolutely no doubt with respect to the nature of the Brahman is the Mananam. Yuktya Sambhavitatvat Anusandhanam. That yukti, by using yukti, that sambhavana of that particular nature of the Brahman is the Mananam, is the description that is given here. Yeah. So the very clear definition in terms of Shravanam and Mananam is being given in this particular verse by Acharya after explaining how you do Shravanam and Mananam. See, you can easily give the definitions and then escape. But here clearly he has come out with that. But the way he has used Shravanam, he did not go through the entire teaching of Upanishad to arrive at that Tat and Tvam. So Shravanam seems to be done at two levels. One is a generic understanding of Upanishads, and to say that that particular Upanishad or any Upanishad or any scripture gives only one aspect of Jiva and Para. Jiva and Para, they are one and the same. A generic understanding is also Shravanam, and that also comes with your analysis. Why this becomes important, we need to understand. Normally, Shravanam means what we say, listening is Shravanam, reading is Shravanam. Yeah. And reading, listening, or study groups that we discussing, that we talk about, all of them appear to be a outside activity, a external activity. They don't appear to be an internalized activity. Is somewhat difficult for us to grasp at the immediate first stage. When we define Shravanam as listening, listening is outside activity. Like I listen to many other things, I also listen to the scriptures. I also listen to the lectures given on the scriptures, for example. Now that becomes Shravanam for us. But what is being defined here is like Mananam, even Shravanam requires for you to do Anusandhanam. Means it is an internalized activity. It is not really an external activity like what we do as listening to many other songs, for example. Bollywood songs is a Shravanam. But really speaking, Shravanam, when we talk about as a part of sadhana, it is Anusandhanam. The analysis becomes a very, very important aspect. And this Shravanam is an internal activity. It is not an external activity, although the word meaning of that is Shravanam means listening, so to say. Yeah. So here, the second aspect of Shravanam is the Anusandhanam of the Mahavakyas. So that when you understand that Paramatma and Jivatma, they are one and the same, you do a second Shravanam, means second Anusandhanam, second analysis in terms of understanding that Tat and Tvam are one and the same. So Mahavakya Viveka Anusandhanam is Shravanam is being told here, is the higher level that we talk about, where there are zero doubts then with regards to the nature of Brahman, nature of Jiva. Yeah? And Mananam is again any doubts with respect to there is no doubt in terms of understanding the very this Sambhavitatvam. By logic, one requires to establish that Jivatma, that Mithyatvam of Jiva and the nature of the Brahman as the ultimate truth is very, very important aspects as far as Mananam and Shravanam and Mananam are concerned. And this is the definition that is being given here by Swamiji here. Yeah. So Pramanagata Sandeha Nivritti, we call that. However, that involves Anusandhanam or the analysis as a tool, very, very important, and Shravanam becomes part and parcel of our internalized practice, not an external listening. Yeah? Similarly, Prameyagata Sandeha, that means no doubts with respect to nature of that Ishvara or Brahman as the ultimate truth. Asangaha, the nature of that particular Ishvara or Brahman is no way associated, because they two are two different orders of reality, is a very, very important step in terms of our Shravana and Manan. Next verse, actually, Nididhyasana will be taken up by Swamiji here. Yeah, from the verse 53 to 62, you will find that the Nididhyasana as well as the aspects of the Nididhyasana will be taken up. Very important subject. One must understand that here 52 to 62, 53 to 62, except verse 57 and 58, they are directly lifted from what is called as Adhyatma Upanishad. This is part of Shukla Yajurveda. Adhyatma Upanishad is there. These are directly lifted from there. So there is no copyright for our Shastras. If you find that already somebody has given a wonderful explanation in line with what the text you are studying, you can directly take and put it here. So Swamiji said that this is the best way to explain exactly in line with what I have done till now, Shravanam and Mananam. Nididhyasanam I need not again rewrite. So he lifted from Adhyatma Upanishad which forms part of Shukla Yajurveda. So 53 to 62, except for 57, 58, he interjected. We will see why, because he gives reference from other texts as such. So these are all from that Adhyatma Upanishad. Yeah. And 63 and 64, the last two which are there also, they are from Suta Samhita, from the Skanda Puran. From Skanda Puran, you will find in Suta Samhita, he has taken 63 and 64 in terms of this. So you will find them, Nididhyasana being taken up from verse 54 onwards. Okay. We will take it up in the next class. I will close the class now and stay back for if any questions are there. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. I'm thinking in the next two classes, actually the this particular text might be over. Yeah. So you start thinking about what we should do with the Sunday class after that. Yeah. I'm not sure, 2 or 3 classes at the max. Okay. Any questions, please, before we close?
Yeah, Shankarji, I was going to ask you. So basically, we have to first understand what the scriptures are talking about, right? To
Correct.
clarify doubts in our heads. And
Yeah.
then we have to start negating what we are not,
Experiencing. Yeah.
right? And then from then, like what they say in Bhaj Govindam, that I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this, right? But that's very difficult because we keep thinking that we are this. And like the process, even though he says you should be doing this, but then in reality, we never think like that because something happens and oh yeah, it is the body and
The
it is
body
me,
hurt.
you know, and we just, so I guess it's just like a long process for us.
It's like this, Vinitaji. The Nididhyasanam definition is given in the next verse. You will find exactly what we are expected to do and why it is happening as well. Yeah. So he talks about this Nididhyasanam requirement because of exactly what you say, that we have been used to this particular thinking for not in this particular life, but whole so many millions of lives that we have gone through. The reality of the prapancha is very, very clear to us. And there will be this particular habit of ours will push back. Any knowledge that you are trying to acquire through yukti or shruti or anubhuti, it will try to push back. And that is exactly what the process of Nididhyasanam is. And that Nididhyasanam is not easy. I agree with you, it is not easy. That's why Krishna in Bhagavad Gita had to tell Arjuna, don't worry if you don't pick up in this life. If you are doing this with 100% thinking, at least in terms of this, you will come back into a similar life ahead and you will continue this particular knowledge from where you have stopped in this life. So yeah, he is giving that assurance because of exactly the reason what you say. Nobody is saying that it is easy. If getting a PhD in physics is not so easy, only maybe 0.1% of the entire population can achieve that. Why do you think that this should be easy, getting realization?
So the other thing is that I guess generally, like as we are going about doing our day-to-day activities, we really need to be thinking about this all the time. I mean, at least get into the habit of thinking about it, because what we all do, or at least I should not say we all, maybe people are doing it, I don't know. But at least what I am doing is I'm not thinking about this, I'm thinking of everything else but this. I mean, this thought will come once in a while, but other thoughts come in more often, right?
This thought comes when you're not, your mind is not agitated. When you're in peace, that's the only time you think about these things.
In verse 55, Guruji has given a wonderful explanation on 3 different types of such seekers who are doing meditation. He defines them. We will go through that when we come to 55, 2 verses down the line.
Okay.
Okay. Now, one more question. Sorry, if anybody else has, please jump in. Otherwise, I'm going to ask one more thing, but that's not related to today's topic.
Vinita, I don't have question, but I see the connection between what we did today and between what Jayaji said the other day, that we should remember all the time, at least take the name.
Yeah.
You know, so because name taking has own power.
Yeah.
So it is something like that. She said, at our level, even if we remember to take the name, that's a big thing. So
Normally, people who come into this Vedanta, we have a peculiar this one that we actually follow Jnana Marga. And we have a tendency to look down upon people who follow Bhakti Marga, telling that they don't have enough intelligence and we are the intelligent lot. Yeah. But here, why this entire thing is important is that Bhakti becomes part and parcel of the whatever marga you take. Whether you take Karma Marga, whether you take Jnana Marga, because Bhagavad Gita says there are only 2, Karma and Sankhya. As per them, that only Vividha, only 2 paths are there as per them. But for both of them to come to reach a conclusion, Bhakti becomes a very, very important concept. Unless you have Bhakti, nothing else will come. So the start point, as Jayaji mentioned, will be taking name. That inculcates that Bhakti, and that only you can either follow Karma or you can follow Jnana. Doesn't matter. They are one and the same in that sense. But Bhakti becomes a substratum.
One thing for everything.
Right. Yeah. Foundation for both.
Right.
Vinita, you wanted to ask something.
Yeah, I have something. Yeah, when you mention about bhakti and gyan and all those, so they also say that bhakti is easier to do if you just, totally surrender. And it just comes. But with the gyan marga, sometimes it becomes very difficult because it's very easy to come down. Fall is easy. Then in bhakti too, fall is there, but you have to be, if you have surrendered totally, then the fall is not that much as it's in the Gyan Marga. Unless we have all these concepts balanced.
As I mentioned, when you construct a house, you have to put the foundation first. And then only the walls can come. You can choose any type of walls that can come, but foundation becomes very important for the edifice to stay in one place. Similarly, bhakti becomes the foundation, as we mentioned. So they say that you do bhakti first. Very important that, and it's easy. And why it is easy? Because you have to lay that foundation before you progress with either karma or with jnana. For both, bhakti is important from that perspective. But if you want to analyze bhakti, no other text than Upadesha Shara by Ramana Maharshi. I think Gurudev's lectures are there, or Guruji's lectures are there, and book is there. Very, very important for us to understand different types of bhakti that are there. So bhakti has got a problem in terms of attachment of oneself with a particular type. For example, if we take up a bhakti is supposed to be a japa, then people spend years together, months together, years together, decades together, only doing japa. But only bhakti that Ramana Maharshi suggests as the ultimate is when there is no difference between you and Ishvara. That is the ultimate bhakti. That means what? Jnanam. That Advaitam has to come irrespective of the path you choose. So each have got their own shortcomings. And bhakti's main shortcoming is your attachment to that particular activity that you take up, and you call that as bhakti. And you get attached to that so much so, people who get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do 3 hours of puja can never come out of that habit. They will reach 90, but they continue to do that and give importance to only that, seeing that variation between themselves and that Ishtadevata. They don't go beyond that. So there are dangers in bhakti also, as we define, and we need to understand bhakti as well, and how we travel on that path of bhakti. I think Guruji has a wonderful explanation on Ramana Maharshi's Upadesha.
They go hand in hand always. You can't do one without the other.
True. Yeah. Foundation and then the structure, both are required.
Even when you're laying the foundation, you have to have some idea what you're doing. You know, let's be practical. If you're building a house, if you don't know what you're doing.
True, true. I agree with you.
But then one place Gurudev have said that because we people are more attached to the body, we are more body oriented. Till we have that one, then bhakti is good for those, and the people who have intellectual, then gyan is there. But before we have to get rid of this notion that we are the body.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
Gyan. That's Gyan. That's knowledge.
It's a bhakti same time too.
Yeah.
Now, what he's trying to say is, if you say that I have to get rid of that, I am not body, is jnana. That is the knowledge that you arrive at through bhakti.
Yeah. With devotion.
Vinita ji, you had a third question.
Yeah, I had one more question. I was just trying to read this Medha Suktam, and in that there's a lot of repetition. Like they keep saying Mai Medham, Mai Prajam, then again they say Mai Prajam, Mai Indriyam, Mai Medham. Why do they keep repeating that? What does it mean? Like Mai Medham, what does that mean?
I don't know, Vinita ji. I
I'm
will have a
saying-
look at that. This is what Medha Suktama.
Medha Suktam, if you just look at it, then maybe we can
Okay.
talk about it, you know.
Normally,
on a-
repetition. Go ahead.
Sorry, on a slightly different thing, somebody sent me something first thing this morning, and it's something from what Wayne Dwyer had written, and it's about twins in the womb, and one was saying, well, they say life after delivery, and one believes there is something after delivery, that they'll use his legs to walk and they'll use his mouth to eat. And the other said, no, after delivery, there's nothing. And the discussion goes on, and the one says, well, you can, the umbilical cord, when that's gone, that's it. And he says, no, that's mother. No, there's no mother. Oh, yes, you can feel her all around us. And the discussion goes on, but it just gives you to start thinking about exactly what we're talking about. It's all around us, but none of us, many of us don't even think about that. That's what this little discussion is about.
I will have a look at this Medha Suktam, Vinita ji. I will come back to you on that. Yeah. But
Thank
this
you.
repetition aspect which is there is not limited to Medha Suktam. You will find this particular thing in other chantings also, especially Vedic chantings, you will find them. Yeah. Mostly that is actually to say that one comes out of the other. Normally, that is how those repetitions actually come. So one aspect is given, and from that, the second aspect is coming, and from second aspect, the third aspect is coming. So a sequential creation process is normally indicated by that repetitions. But in specifically Medha Suktam, I will let you know. Yeah, let me also learn. Thanks for bringing that.
Thank you, Shankarji, and please upload the last two.
I will definitely. Thank you.
But where are
Well-
the other ones, Vinita? Where are the first when he started? Where do I go and look for?
If you go into our website, you click on classes, you go to adult classes, and then you click at the bottom.
And the parent
At
class.
the parent class, you click at the bottom, there's one little yellow
Line,
thing
yeah.
which says Chinmaya channel, then you click on that and then you get everything.
Parents classes, yoga class.
No,
Parents.
Yeah,
You
you,
can go to classes and then
Class.
adult group classes. Then under adult group
Is
is
parent.
parent group.
and under parent group, if you read the text of the parent group right at the bottom, it'll be like one small 2 words Chinmaya channel. You click on that and then you
If
go
you get him to
to.
make that bold.
Or
I
in the
must-
Google, you can type Chinmay Giridhar channel. It will come up in YouTube
Chinmaya Girdhar.
channel. Yeah.
Yeah, you
go
can do
direct
that
to
way.
YouTube,
But
yeah.
sometimes on the phone, it doesn't come up, like it just
Ah.
depends. Like sometimes on my phone, it just doesn't come up.
Correct. Correct.
But Jayaji's lectures are under those video audios.
Yeah, under audio. This is separate.
Yeah, so Jayaji's are under audios. So why can't we put all into audios? That way everything can be
Send
at
a
one
message
place.
to Ravi, yeah.
You can check with Abhimanyu and what's his name, Ravi.
Ravi
They are
ji.
the ones who do this thing. So
Can we do that, Abhimanyu-ji?
I don't know. I'll have to check with Ravi. One is audio and one is
Videos.
Video.
yeah.
But the audios, because Jayaji's lectures are all in audios. So if we get Shankarji's all in audio, so we don't have to go places,
They're
places
available
and
as
find
well.
in one
They're
place.
available
Go
in the
on the
recording. So it can be done possibly. We can check with Ravi ji and see.
Sure.
and maybe you should get him to put a button of the channel in the beginning. That way we don't have to go into these embedded, all the way
Yes,
down.
I
I
agree.
mean, if he has a button in the home page,
Red button.
yeah, then we just